Comfort looks innocent, but it's expensive. It costs you confidence, clarity, and sometimes the very calling you were created to fulfill. Comfort is sneaky. It convinces you that safety equals success. But over time, it quietly drains your confidence and dulls your purpose. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you make a withdrawal from your future. Every time you choose distraction over discipline, you delay your destiny. Welcome to the Shattered Mindset Podcast. Wisdom from life's turning points and defining moments. I'm your host, Melvin Larry. And listen, let's talk. Most people don't quit because they're weak. They quit because comfort feels safer than uncertainty, even when they're only one step away from a breakthrough. It's not that they lack potential, it's that they've grown comfortable in the waiting room, comfortable in the planning, in the almost, in the I'll start tomorrow. And before they realize it, comfort has turned from a place of rest into a place of retreat. Today, we're talking about the hidden cost of comfort, the price we pay when we stop right before the win, the change, or the calling that was meant for us. Comfort can be one of the most dangerous things in life, not because it hurts you, but because it slowly convinces you to stop growing. Comfort has a voice, it whispers, "You've done enough." It says, "Take a break. You deserve it." But the truth is, comfort doesn't want you rested, it wants you rooted. Comfort looks harmless, it feels like safety, but it's the silent dream killer that convinces capable people to settle for less. It dulls the hunger that once kept us moving. Think about it. Every major breakthrough in your life came after discomfort. The first time you took a risk, the first time you said yes to something that scared you, the first time you chose discipline over delay. And yet, even knowing that, we often choose comfort again because discomfort is inconvenient. It exposes our fears. And this idea of getting comfortable doesn't just show up in our personal lives, it sneaks into our work, our leadership, and even our businesses. This isn't just a personal lesson, it's something I've seen happen to a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners. They start with passion, drive, and vision. They build a business, get some traction, and listen, and for a while, that growth feels good. But then comfort sets in. They've reached a level that feels safe. The bills are paid, the brand has a little recognition, and they stop pushing. What they don't realize is that comfort and growth can't coexist for long. You can maintain or you can multiply, but you can't do both at the same time. Now, some get caught in that in between space where they're growing just enough to feel productive, but not scaling enough to transform. They built a system that serves them, but not one that frees them. Hey, been there, done that. Look, and here's the truth: the difference between growth and scale begins with mindset. Growth says, I can do more. Scale says, we can build systems so I don't have to do it all. Comfort keeps you in the first category. Scaling demands you step into the second. So if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, or someone leading anything right now, ask yourself, have I settled into comfort or am I stretching toward capacity? By the way, capacity is really just a state of mind, okay? But there's a pattern in people who give up too soon. It's rarely a sudden decision, it's an emotional slide that starts quietly and usually ends in regret. Most people don't wake up and say, I quit. It's a slow fade. It starts with doubt, then comes delay. Then the justification. Maybe it just wasn't meant to be, we say. Okay? That's how comfort sneaks in, not loudly, but logically. And the danger is the mind starts protecting you from the very thing that would grow you. It tells you, don't get hurt again. It says, you tried before, remember? But those reminders aren't protection, they're anchors or weights, if you will. Every step towards your breakthrough will trigger something in you, a little resistance, a little fatigue, maybe even a little fear. And that's okay because that resistance isn't punishments, it's proof you're getting close. But here's the thing, discomfort, as painful as it feels, often turns out to be the very doorway that leads to your next level of growth. Discomfort is a teacher that most people fire too early. They don't like the way it speaks, okay? Rough, demanding, uncompromising. But discomfort doesn't lie. It tells you where your limits are and then invites you to go beyond them. It's like weight training. You can't build muscle without resistance. You can't build faith without uncertainty. And you can't build strength without struggle. Every breakthrough you'll ever experience lives on the other side of a temporary stretch. Look, I went from a very private, introverted person to becoming a success in the business of network marketing to becoming a podcaster, people businesses as well. And even in my later life, to make the decision to do that. Now, most people, look, they interpret that stretch as a sign to stop, take it easy, chill, lay back. Hey, love to do some of that. Well, look, when it's really though a signal to lean in. They confuse pressure with punishment, but pressure doesn't break character, it actually reveals it. Somewhere between feeling inspired and staying consistent, there's a gap most people fall into. It's the space where motivation fades and discipline has to take, over, just has to take over the whole situation. Here's something I learned over, decades in leadership and in entrepreneurship and in life. Motivation starts the engine, but discipline keeps it running. Look, motivation is emotional. That burst you get after a great talk or a new idea or a weekend event. The discipline, though, is steady. It's what keeps you moving when the feeling fades. It's been said that character is doing the right thing even after the feeling to do it has left you. Well, look, most people quit not because they lost the dream, they lost momentum. And momentum only comes from movement, not perfection, not excitement, movement. Look, if you can't fly, walk. If you can't walk, crawl, but just don't stop moving. But the moment you stop, comfort creeps in and starts negotiating with your potential. That's crazy, man. Look, what's wild is that the breakthrough is so many people pray for usually comes right after they've convinced themselves that it's never going to happen. Breakthrough moments usually come right after you've convinced yourself nothing's working. You've been grinding, you've been faithful, you've been showing up, and still no results. That's the cliff's edge where most people turn around. But fatigue often peaks right before favor breaks through. You see, one of the best ways to handle those dips is to prepare for them. Look, many years ago, I worked in fast food. We used to take register readings. We write it down throughout the day. What the register reading is. Look, they got technology for that these days. But back then, we manually tracked when customer traffic dipped and when it spiked. That's how we knew when to cook more food and when to hold off. Look, the same principle applies in life and business. You've got to recognize your rhythms, anticipate the slow moments, and plan your energy and focus around them. Preparation doesn't remove the dip, but it keeps you from being surprised by it. All right. It's like mining for gold. The last swing, the one you almost didn't take, is often the one that hits the vein. How many times have you heard a person say, listen, the last stop I made on my route was the one where I made the biggest sale, or the last person I talked to was the person I was about to give up and this happened. Look, you got to keep going. When you working out and the body says stop, do three more. That's where the building comes. When you feel the heaviest pressure, remind yourself the enemy of your destiny often fights hardest right before your deliverance. Hold the line, stay in motion, trust the process. Put a process in place now, okay? And then trust the process. But you just remember that there's no secret. People are always looking for the secret. So what's the secret? There is no secret to success. It's a system. It's always about system. Look, I've seen this play out in my own life time and again. Moments when consistency and courage mattered far more than comfort ever could. Over the years, I've watched people with less talent but more tenacity outperform people with gifts they never used. Hey, it's happened to me, okay? Because talent opens the door, but consistency keeps it open. I've seen people stop just short of something incredible because it didn't happen fast enough. They thought, not yet. Okay. Well, and maybe they thought that not yet meant not ever. No, not so. I've seen many people barely start, like in network marketing, barely start the business before they quit. They will like often never give the business or themselves a chance to develop any success because they let what's going on in their head talk them out of it. And listen, you can talk yourself in or out of anything. Look, when I left the structured world of a steady paychecks, I had to redefine success through my thinking. It wasn't about comfort anymore. It was about calling. And calling always costs something. Do you have a calling? Okay. You can't bring your comfort zone into your growth zone. They don't fit in the same room. Success does not live in your comfort zone. And at some point, you realize quitting doesn't always mean walking away. And sometimes it's just not that big old bold thing. Sometimes it just means your belief stops showing up even though your body did. Quitting isn't always physical. Sometimes you stop believing while still showing up. You go through the motions, you check the boxes, but inside you've disconnected from the dream. You're at the event, you're attending the meetings, but you're not taking any actions on what you're, dare I even say, what you're learning, okay? You're not taking any action on it because you're not there. Your body's there, but you've already checked out. You're just showing up. Hey, you're just sometimes we got a lot of people. I know I'm being a bad guy when I say it, that are just professional meeting goers. Hey, listen, we're glad you're at the meeting. Hey, we're glad you're filling the seat. But I tell you what, some of us are just checked out before we even checked in. All right. That's why reframing failure matters. Failure isn't final, it's feedback, it's information that shapes your next iteration. Oh, that sounded very good. Okay. Listen, it's just like pain. It feels like a bad thing, but pain tells you something, and you have to listen to what's going on. So when you have what appears to be failure, which is not failure unless you stop moving forward, so it doesn't have to be final, it can be feedback, information if you allow it to. Every setback whispers one or two things: I told you so, or try again. Now, which one you listen to determines your future. Belief is the quiet fire that keeps you warm when the world goes cold. Look, let's make this even more real for a minute, because mindset without movement doesn't change anything. So we say, hey, mindset, yeah, I got a mindset, great. And really, if there's no movement, is the mind ever truly set? I mean, think about it. A true mindset isn't just what you think, it's what you're committed to. If the mind were really set, it would cause motion. So when there's no movement, maybe what we have isn't a set mind, but a stalled one. Here are some simple, grounded steps that help you stay in the fight when it gets tough. So let's ground all this into practice because inspiration without application fades fast. So, number one, revisit your why. Write it down. I know you've heard that over and over, but are you doing it? And are you doing it consistently? All right. Write down your why. What's hurting you or what will help you? Why? WHY. Write down your why. You know, keep it visible. When emotion dips, purpose must drive. Did you hear that? When emotion dips, purpose must drive. Number two, break it down. Big goals overwhelm. Micro actions create motion. A 5-minute task still counts as progress. It may be little, but it's progress. Make progress. Number three, track momentum. Not perfection, track momentum. Measure streaks, not streak breakers. See, because people always want to measure what's not working. They want to talk about, well, this didn't work, this didn't work. Okay, let's measure the momentum that we have. Consistency compounds, all right? Number four, refuel regularly. Rest isn't quitting, it's maintenance. Schedule it intentionally. Go somewhere. Spend some time alone. Spend some time with somebody you care about. You know, get you some rest. That's not, look, when it's intentional, then it's good. It's a part of your progress. Number five, find accountability voices. People who remind you of who you are when you forget. See, sometimes we forget ourselves and we want somebody to remind us, not to pump you up, but to remind you. Just sometimes that's just saying, you know, you're supposed to do what you said you were going to do. Hey, let's go ahead and make this happen. Let's get this done. All right. Not need somebody to bark at you, but somebody to help you, to hold you accountable. Number six is visualize the breakthrough daily. See it, feel it, speak it. The mind rehearses what the heart expects. So listen, you need to see it if you want to see it. You need to feel it. You need to experience it inside. When I used to sell houses, I would tell a person, a couple, look, I want you to tell me what your house looks like, the one we're going to get. Tell me what it looks like. Tell me what the rooms look like. I want you to know what your house looks like, the one that we're going to find for you. Visualize it. Number seven, celebrate small wins. Small wins. Don't despise the small beginnings. They're proof that growth is happening even when results aren't visible. Okay? Hey, listen. He talk about the little foxes destroying the vine. Look, the small beginnings, small things matter. I'd rather see you do one activity every day than to see you do 10 activities once a month. All right? Because the small things create the momentum, which create the success for you. Number eight, guard your environment. Energy leaks through association. So stay near people who stretch you, not stall you. They talk about you being one of the product of the five people that you associate your success yourself with. So associate yourself with people who are going to stretch you, not who are going to stall you. All right. Now these steps, they're not complicated, they're consistent. And consistency is what bridges the gap between frustration and fulfillment. Look, you don't need 100 new ideas to reach your breakthrough. You need the courage to keep working one idea long enough to see it through. And if that idea of focus really hits home for you, there are two books I want to point you toward that line up perfectly with what we've been talking about today. The first is The One Thing. That's the name of the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. It's all about eliminating the noise so you can focus on what truly moves the needle in your work, your business, your life. It teaches you how to identify that single priority that makes everything else easier or unnecessary. The second is The Power of One More. The Power of One More by Ed Milet. That book dives deep into the mindset behind pushing a little bit further. One more call, one more conversation, one more rep. It ties right into what we've been saying here about staying consistent and not quitting when you're close to your breakthrough. It's easy to underestimate the compounding power of simple actions because consistency doesn't shout, it builds quietly. And that's why most people never see what was meant for them. They confuse stillness with stuckness and comfort with peace. But the difference between peace and comfort is this: peace restores you, comfort restrains you. When you're at peace, you're still moving forward with trust. When you're comfortable, you've stopped moving and started settling. If you can recognize that difference, you can shift your direction before you drift too far. Comfort looks innocent, but it's expensive. It costs you confidence, clarity, and sometimes the very calling you were created to fulfill. Comfort is sneaky. It convinces you that safety equals success. But over time, it quietly drains your confidence and dulls your purpose. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you make a withdrawal from your future. Every time you choose distraction over discipline, you delay your destiny. The question isn't whether you'll pay, it's when. Comfort costs you clarity, it costs you conviction, and sometimes it costs you your calling. When I look back, the hardest seasons of my life weren't the ones where I was uncomfortable. They were the ones where I stayed comfortable too long because comfort doesn't keep you safe, it keeps you small. You know, you can be comfortable so long that you become uncomfortable at being comfortable. Man, oh man. But when you choose to move through the discomfort, even when it's uncertain, even when it's lonely, you discover something powerful. Growth doesn't kill you, it reveals you. Look, staying comfortable in my corporate role where I knew the game well, it would have been good, but it would have limited my purpose and my potential. I knew I wanted more. But I chose to step out and to step into something different. I chose to step into entrepreneurship. Look, there's a tough decision, but I had to step out to make some things happen. So look, let's bring it down to this. I want to speak differently to the part of you that's tired, that's ready to walk away, that's wondering if the effort still matters. Look, if you're watching or listening to this right now and you feel like you're standing at the edge of something, maybe a dream, a decision, a direction, and it feels heavy, feels uncertain, even scary, maybe. This might be your threshold moment. Maybe, maybe you're there wondering if all the effort has really been worth it. You've been doing the right things, showing up, staying faithful, and it still feels like nothing's moving. I see you. I see you. Okay. And I want you to take a second to recognize what that says about you. You stayed when quitting would have been easier. That matters. You're closer than you think. Sometimes the darkness you feel before dawn isn't the end, it's the beginning of light. And what separates those who make it from those who quit isn't luck, timing, or talent, it's trust or faith. Okay? Trust that your effort isn't wasted. Trust that your growth is being recorded. Even when results aren't yet revealed, you've earned the right to pause and say, I'm still here. That's not pride, it's acknowledgement. Progress isn't just the goal reached, it's the endurance it took to get this far. Every time you choose to keep going, you built muscle. Think about it like a seed, okay? Before you ever see green breaking through the soil, a lot has to happen underground. The ground has to be tilled, the seed has to be planted, watered, and exposed to both rain and sun. And then there's the waiting. Nothing looks like it's happening, but everything necessary for life is taking place beneath the surface. That's what breakthrough really is. It's the visible result of an unseen process that's been working all along. And if you're in that waiting stage right now, if your seed is still under the soil, give yourself credit for staying the course. Appreciate the watering, the tending, the showing up every day, even when you can't see results yet, because every act of faithfulness is a form of growth. You're not just waiting, you're working the process. And that's something most people never learn to value, the quiet, invisible work that no one applauds but everyone benefits from later. So instead of judging yourself by what hasn't sprouted yet, take a moment to recognize the strength that it takes to keep nurturing something unseen. That patience, that consistency, that endurance, that's your proof that breakthrough is on the way. And while we're talking about that seed, here's something worth remembering. You are part of that process too. You're the one doing the planting, tending, and waiting. Appreciate that. Every day you keep showing up, watering your dream, you're providing that you trust the process. And you're proving that you trust the process. The seed doesn't rush the soil, it grows at the pace of its design. In the same way, your consistency is proof that something good is still happening underground. So don't quit. Don't let comfort convince you that enough is all there is. You're doing more than holding on. You're growing roots. Appreciate the quiet work you've already done because it's preparing you to hold the weight of what's next. You've come too far to stop now. You're not stuck. You're shifting. You're not finished. You're forming. You're not failing. You are forging. The same pressure that breaks some people builds others, and you get to choose which you'll be. And as you make that choice, remember, you've already proven you can handle pressure. You've been faithful in the unseen places, and that's exactly what qualifies you for the breakthrough ahead. When you feel like quitting, remember that feeling isn't final, it's just the threshold of transformation. So, look, I'm going to go here, but in the meantime, until next time, keep adapting, keep adjusting, keep evolving, and keep reaching for those higher horizons. We'll see you the next time on the Shattered Mindset podcast. Take care, take charge. God